So, here's how that fight went. Volm might have been a dirt-sucking heap of walking garbage, but I had to give the big son of a bitch some credit. He was certainly no coward. He came charging towards me, fearless as a rhino, screaming a furious battle cry, and swinging that sword of his like all the things he hated most in life were standing in front of him and calling his mother a whore. Well, I met that swing of his head-on with big country, and the clashing of our blades sounded throughout the air, loud as hell and painful besides, despite the sound dampeners in my helmet. Volm was a strong boy, but he was the one who came up short in that test of strength. The impact from the collision of our weapons forced him to take a step backward, and he didn't like that one bit.
"Impertinent wretch!" he bellowed. "I am the breaker of men. You will be shattered against my unyielding will. Your defiance only further fuels my wrath. Oh, how you'll howl for mercy when I begin peeling your skin from your body and force you to swallow it."
Oh, good lord, here we go again, I thought to myself with a heavy sigh. These drama queens can never help themselves, can they? Now, folks, I consider myself to be decently tolerant of others. I don't mind people having their little quirks and their strange habits, even if they're sort of annoying, because we're all made a little bit different, ain't we? Why should I judge anyone else for the things they do? But you know what? I can't keep this under my hat anymore. By God, do I fucking hate it when a bad guy starts carrying on like this. Here we are, right in the thick of a life or death dust-up, and this dummy thought that now was the time to start boasting about his evil credentials, and to start making a stupid speech describing all the heinous stuff he was going to do to me once he'd won, and blah blah blah. By glory, do these fellas have all kinds of real specific torments they'd like to share with the folks they're trying to kill. And let me tell you, these scumbags do not like skimping on the details. At first, all the threatening monologues were kind of fun to listen to. When I first arrived in this world, I thought it was like being in a comic book. Learning that there really were jackasses who genuinely spoke like this was a complete hoot. But oh my goodness. Once you've heard some crazy fools say the millionth iteration of "How dare you oppose me? Don't you know who I am? I'm gonna make you scream louder than Elton John in the dungeons of the 700 Club," you just get wary of hearing that shit. And besides all that, if you're jabbering, then you ain't dodging. And if you ain't dodging, then boy, you're getting punched in the mouth. And that's exactly what I did to that bloviating sack of crap. Knocked him straight on his ass, yes sir. Then I kicked him in the face, both for good measure and because I didn't much like him. "Volm, if you're going to have diarrhea of the mouth, then I suggest you go home and wipe your chin," I said to him. "This here's a fight, son. If you can't settle it without all that nattering, then you're no real warrior."
"You dare? You dare?" he screamed,
right before I kicked him under the jaw again. "Well, clearly I do, boy. Damn, you're slow to catch on," I said in exasperation. "Is this level of stupidity what comes with being your own daddy's second cousin?"
"You keep striking me when I'm down," he complained. "Have you no sense of honor?"
I stopped in my tracks, momentarily stunned by this monster's audacity. "Oh, Volm. You're clearly a fellow who hasn't made a lot of good choices in your life, pard. But what you just said there? That was the last mistake you'll ever make." As soon as he said those words, Volm was a dead man. "Honor?" I asked him, as a red haze began settling over my vision. "Really? Honor? Like the sort of honor it takes to bravely lead a horde of monsters against that handful of elves over there? Is that the kind of honor you speak of? Like the honor of making people into slaves and buying and selling children? Is that what you mean, pard?"
"I speak of a warrior's pride,"
he started to say, before I planted my boot square in his face and shut him up. "Don't you give me that shit, you pussy willow hypocrite," I yelled at him. "Folks like you will always cry foul when you finally get what you have coming. You don't care about decent behavior when you're on top, but as soon as the tables turn, you can't turn bitch fast enough, can you, boy? Well, let me tell you something I once heard from my grandpa about honor." This time I measured my kick carefully and caught the bastard right in the ribs. I felt his armor fold in at the point of impact, causing Volm to begin sucking in his breast with a desperate wheedling sound. Seemed like he now had a loose rib or two tickling one of his lungs. The poor baby. My grandpa said to me the only honor to be found in war is in surviving it, I continued. Now, at the time, I didn't fully understand exactly what he meant. Obviously, in a war, there's the aggressors and the defenders. There's the good guys and the bad guys. Those who do right and those who do wrong. As I spoke, I began stomping on Volm's body. He squealed like a newborn baby when I felt his femur snap. Well, it was a puzzle to me, Volm. It really was, I went on. Then one day I realized the answer. Like an apple falling on old Mr. Newton. You see, I was confusing honor with heroism. There are all kinds of heroes in war, Volm. People who'll die for their friends, their family, their country, you name it. And they'll sacrifice themselves for it.
Please, please, he moaned. Mercy!
Hush, I ain't finished, I said to him. Anyway, people like that know the importance of winning when you're fighting a remorseless, implacable enemy. Which sometimes means sacrificing their ethics for the greater good. Sometimes that means shooting a fellow in the back if it means saving their friend's life. Sometimes that means kicking a man when he's down because if he gets up, he'll cause trouble later. Now my foot came down on his elbow, hard. He'll never swing that sword of his ever again.
Please, he sobbed. Please, I'll leave. I'll withdraw. You'll never see me again.
And in your case, Volm, I continued, as though he hadn't said a thing. Volm, breaker of men, the fourth finger of the hand, proud servant of the advocacy. That means putting you down like a sick dog, no matter how hard you try to appeal to my better angels. And that's because I'd rather eat a bullet from my gun than ever be thought of as an honorable man by the likes of you.
I'm sorry! I'm sorry! I'm sorry!
He wailed. I brought Big Country down across his neck and punted his head away, sending it rolling across the dirt before it came to a rest. I sincerely hoped he would lay there beneath the sun to rot for the rest of time. I also hoped no scavenger would choose to make a meal of Volm's body. Nature's critters deserve better than to choke on scum like him. Well, whew, I don't know about you, Pete, but I feel much better now, I said. Goodness, Sir Matthew, that was quite a thorough trouncing you delivered that fellow, Pete replied. Eh? What's that thing they say everywhere now? He triggered me, I said to him. Any fool should know what happens when you squeeze the trigger of a man as half-cocked as me. You go off? Pete asked. I go right the hell off, I confirmed. Now, how are the rest of them Skarn doing? I can't help but notice they seem to be fleeing from this soiree, with their tails tucked in. Indeed, Pete said cheerfully. With their leader and the sorcerers who were guiding them now dead, their fearful instincts appear to have taken over. I very much doubt they'll ever return to this area. Is that a fact? I asked him. There's a very low possibility, he replied. That's good, I said. But let's make a possibility into a certainty, Pete. Start tracking them with the railgun at Defiance Keep. Let's get them a few miles away, then give them a Viking funeral. Sir Matthew, Vikings were traditionally buried at sea, Pete said in confusion. Yeah, I nodded. But first they were set on fire. Oh, he said. You gotta laugh, Pete. He always catches on quick. Well, I said, I suppose it's time we introduced ourselves to those elves. Got any recommendations, Pard? Until we can ascertain their motives, it would be best to remain inside your armor. These elves are considerably more skilled than the ones we previously battled. Any potential advantage they can seize could prove dangerous for us. I thought these were supposed to be the good ones, I said with a frown. I believe they are, but they are still strangers to us. Caution will serve us best when we understand them better. Well, you ain't been wrong about a lot of things, Pard, I said with a nod. So I guess that's what we'll do. When have I ever been wrong about anything? Pete asked. When you said Tom Brady wasn't a cheater, I replied. I merely said that it was unlikely he benefited all that much from a slight decrease in the ball's air pressure, Pete said defensively. Yeah? And how much did old Billy Belichick pay you for that opinion, buddy? I snorted at him. That dude is a dirty scoundrel. It wouldn't surprise me in the least if the bad guys offered him Volm's spot in their gang. Sir Matthew, I'm confused, said Pete. didn't you just tell your deceased opponent that honor is meaningless during conflict? Pete, that's just during war, I replied with a scowl. This is football. Aradef was ready when the wall that enclosed her and her servants suddenly lowered itself. When a massive armored figure stepped before her, she struck at once, lashing out with a powerful blast of wind that caused the stranger to stumble back. "We strike as one!" she cried out, as she and her servants dashed towards the fiend. "Volm, breaker of men, you shall now pay for your crimes against our people!" "Wait, hold on!" the giant tried to say, as she lashed out with a gleaming edge of Blightbane. With surprising grace for someone so large, he rolled forward over his shoulder and came up on his feet, avoiding her blade entirely. "Silence, you murdering cur!" Aradef shouted. "You won't avoid justice today!" As she distracted the fiend with her words, Vasimer and Denolal approached him from behind and attacked with one smooth, coordinated effort, aimed at the joints of his legs, hoping to hobble him where he stood. However, the giant once again proved too quick for them, and turned, catching their blades in his hands, and pulling them away from the astounded elves. "Hey!" he yelled again, now beginning to sound angry. "I said quit that! I don't mean you any harm." "Liar!" shouted Rosalind and Rosalie, as the twin sisters lifted their ember rods and began peppering him with blasts of fire. "We won't fall for the tricks of the advocacy," said Rosalind. "You won't catch us unaware," said Rosalie. "Okay, y'all are really working my last nerve here, I promise you," the armored giant said. "Take a breath and calm down a sec, will ya? I'm trying to talk to you." Oof! Aradef's boot, fueled by both her considerable magic and her own incredible physical strength, connected with the giant from behind, knocking him to the ground. Before he could get back to his feet, she was on him, holding Blightbane against his throat. "As impressive as your armor is, I guarantee that it will offer little defense against Blightbane's bite," she said to him. "Although your horde may claim us, Volm, you'll still face the judgment of my ancestors. Now prepare yourself." "What horde?" he yelled at her. "Do you see any Skarn left around here, dummy?" "Don't think to distract me, monster," Aradef warned him sternly. "Oh, screw this. Pete, are any of our drones carrying any stun rounds?" The frustrated stranger asked someone that Aradef couldn't see. "Of course, sir," pipped a cheerful-sounding voice. "As you know, I always like to send them out prepared for a variety of different situations." "Oh, well, if that's the case, Pard, would you mind putting this wild child to sleep before she slits my dang throat?" "At once, sir," the voice replied. Before Aradef could demand to know what was happening, a blue light shot from the sky and struck her in the torso, causing her limbs to lock up, and sending her shuddering onto the dirt, with Blightbane dropping from her twitching fingers. "Lady Aradef!" shouted Denolal, as he and Vasimer came running to assist her. "How dare you harm her?" Rosalind said angrily. "Yeah, how dare you?" Rosalie echoed her twin. "Oh, calm your britches. She's fine," the stranger said irritably. "She's just having a nap is all. Now, can I ask what the hell your collective problem is?" "You know very well where the root of our conflict stems, Volm," Denolo shouted at him. "Hey, pretty boy, are you crazy? I ain't Volm. Volm's the dead guy over there," he said, pointing at a decapitated figure in black armor that lay some distance away. "What?" asked Rosalind. "Huh?" said Rosalie. "You defeated a member of the Hand?" asked Vasimer in awe. "In single combat? Sir, who are you?" "I'm the fellow whose colors you're running, genius," said the stranger in exasperation. "Wait, you're the Fortunite? Really?" asked Rosalind excitedly. "Incredible," said the elated Rosalie. "We thought you died when your sky chariot crashed." "Yeah, well, I didn't," the Fortunite said. "Now, does someone want to please tell me what's going on here? Because, I'm sorry, but I'm about fed up with all of you."